coming from the very corporate environment, I got a lot of eye rolling and a lot of other things. Here's this. I have a national reputation for being an award-winning executive coach. Now I'm going and I'm going out on a limb and talking about the spirit world, and I'm noticing that there is a golden glow coming over the room. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I thought it, but I'm focused on my phone call. And then the next thing I knew is I felt this overwhelming power at a feeling of unconditional love.
Welcome to a new episode of New Earth Awakening. Today, we welcome to the show the amazing Elizabeth Freed.
Thank you. Thank you. So nice to be here. I think it's probably nicer to be in Malta because right now it's raining here in San Diego, which it never rains in Southern California, very rarely.
Wow, so you have a very special day up there for the plants that are getting nurtured. Yeah. So thank you, Elizabeth, for being here today. Um, can we please start by you introducing yourself to the audience?
Yes, I'm Elizabeth Freed. I am a retired executive coach. I had my own business for 40 years. I was very, very corporate, very straight in every single thing that I did. And I retired probably officially ended my corporation 2 years ago. But I still occasionally will take on an executive coaching engagement if it's interesting, but I try not to. I'm really much more focused on two things right now. One is my mediumship, and I also do commercials in print and TV type commercials on occasion. It's not something I do a lot of because I don't live in LA and you pretty much need to live there to do that. But when it's convenient and it works out, I do it. It's kind of fun. But my real heart is in mediumship right now because what I'm using my mediumship fees for is to raise funds for a nonprofit that I support, which is called the Honor Foundation, and it supports military special operations personnel like Navy SEALs, Marine Raiders, Delta Force, uh, those types of people, and helps them transition from the military to the civilian workforce. I've been doing pro bono coaching for them for 9 years, and I've given them my time and my talent. I haven't given them my treasure. I now that I'm retired, I'm on a fixed income, so any monies that I earn through mediumship, I have directly donated to that cause.
Wow, that's really amazing. I love that so much. It's so much giving back. And I am sure that a lot of families out there that are very grateful for this. So thank you, Elizabeth, for that. And I would like to know a little bit more about your path. It sounds very interesting, the corporate thing and all of that. So how did it lead you at the end to pursue your purpose of being a medium and engaging in this amazing work?
Well, my purpose in life has always been to serve others. I began as a teacher and then ultimately as a coach. And there you're always helping people improve their situation so they can lead the best life possible. Um, During this time, I was maybe in my 20s, and I was taking a yoga course or doing something, and I had this very jolting out of body experience one evening. It was quite startling and kind of shook me up a bit. And I read about it and pursued it, and I just thought, this is scary initially. Now that I know more, it's not really scary, but at the time it was because I was in my 20s. And I asked myself, all right, if I pursue this, what's the purpose? How is it really going to help people? I just saw it as somebody having fun and adventures in the astral world. But at the end of the day, I didn't see it as being particularly useful. So I put it to bed. then another 20 years goes by. I'm now in my 40s, late 30s, 40s, something like that, early 40s. And I'm sitting in my office and I'm talking to a client. And at that time, I was doing compensation consulting. So I was saying, and it was GE aircraft engine, just to tell you how straight this was. And I am like, the straight. And you have to understand, my philosophy in life was, well, when you're dead, you're done. So let the good times roll. I didn't think about spirituality. I didn't think about anything. I was just, if I can't see it, feel it, or touch it, I don't believe it. So now here I am sitting in my room, in my office, and we're trying to set up an appointment. I'm 100% fully in the present moment with this woman. And I'm noticing that there is a golden glow coming over the room. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I thought it, but I'm focused on my phone call. And then the next thing I knew is I felt this overwhelming power and a feeling of unconditional love surround me. Now, I had never experienced this in my life. Now, I was married, my husband loved me, but it's different than romantic love. It was just so different. The best way I could describe it is how you might look upon a newborn baby or how you look upon a pet that is yours that you just love unconditionally. I just never experienced that before. And at the same time, I thought I heard something in the house. I thought maybe my husband had come home and was entering my office. The next thing I felt was a gentle squeeze on my shoulder. And I thought, this is probably my husband. I'm on the phone. I'm a little annoyed because I'm on the phone. He's interrupting me. So I go to wheel around and say, I'll be right with you. And there was no one there. And I just went, woo! And this lady on the other side said, are you all right? I said, yes, I'm fine. I regained my composure. I wasn't scared. I was just surprised. So then I finished my conversation. I noticed that the light started to diffuse and that feeling of love just kind of dispersed. And I just sat there and I said, what in the world was that? So the funny story behind this is that I had a friend that was a bona fide psychic, and she was being followed by Johns Hopkins from the time she was a little girl. And she had asked me to come to her training center because she told me there were some students of hers that felt this energy pull in a certain point of the training center in a certain location. And she said, oh, Elizabeth, you're the most practical person and scientific person that I know. You'll tell me whether you really feel this or not. You won't try to just appeal to me. Okay. So I said, sure, I'll come. So I went there and she had one of her trainees say to me, I'm going to put a protection prayer around you before you go there. And so I would like for you to pray to whatever higher power or God that you believe in for protection. So me being the irreverent soul that I was at the time, I said, I don't really pray. So, but I said, all right. So she puts me in this position and I say, okay, God, show me what's real and show me what's bull. That was my prayer. And so then she puts me in front of my friend and my friend puts her hands over mine like this. And she said, do you feel any kind of pull? I said, nada. And she does under my hands. Do you feel any pull? I said, nope, nothing. She said, okay, that's all I needed to know. So that happened, I don't know, a week prior. So now I have this experience in my office, and I'm thinking, maybe this is what a religious experience is supposed to be about. I don't know. And I had a friend that was a born again Christian. So I called her up and I said, Candace, you ever had a religious experience? And she said, yes. I said, well, let me tell you what happened to me. What do you think? And she said, did you pray recently? And I said, Candace, I don't really pray. And this, wait a minute, I did say a prayer about a week ago. And then I told her what happened. She goes, well, I guess God showed you what was real. Because she wouldn't say bullshit because she was, you know. And then I said, okay. So I thought about that and I yearned. Now, I am now going to be 77 in 11 days in April. And this happened to me when I was 30, about 39, 30, something like that, because I had had 3 miscarriages at that point. And I thought, what was this about? Is this just assuring me everything's going to be fine? What was this about? And I yearned for years after that to feel this love, this unconditional love, but never returned until recently, until I started this mediumship and I connected with one of my angels who looked upon me and just made me feel that way. It was really pretty wonderful. So that's kind of the history behind this. Okay. As to very straight person, had these few experiences. Now I'm getting ready to retire because I didn't really have time to pursue it. I was too busy running a business. I didn't have time. Plus, they were just kind of one-off things. So I happened to I had taken some courses from the Monroe Institute. I had taken 3 or 4 courses from them. And they're a great organization. And I enjoyed these courses, but I never followed up or followed through. It was like fine for the moment. And then I saw they were advertising a course. I'm now retired because this was about 2 years ago. The Mediumship Toolkit. So I'm thinking mediumship toolkit. What the heck's that about? And it says, you don't, I thought everybody had to be born with the gift of mediumship. And I'm reading that you don't, that you can learn how to do it. So I thought, whoa, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I'll go. So I went for the week and I was quite intrigued, but I wasn't very good. I was maybe 20%, and I wasn't really sure what was really happening for me. And my teacher was very good, but I thought, well, I need more. So, and one who really enjoys learning, I took a circle with her, and that was okay. And then I made this decision that I really wanted to get good at this and found out about a woman named Suzanne Giesemann. Now, Suzanne Giesemann is a very interesting woman. She is a retired naval officer who did work for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Very corporate. She taught leadership courses at the Naval Academy, and I taught leadership courses. So I understood her background. Okay. So I saw that she had an 8-week online course at the Shift Network. And I looked at this course, and there it was, the curriculum. Broad overview of what the course was to be. Here are the objectives and the instructional modules and the resources and the takeaways. There's going to be a video. There's going to be a transcript of the video because I learned by watching, but also by reading. I have to underline, make notes in the margin. That's how I learn. All right. So I said, oh, this is right up my alley. She structured this course exactly as I would structure a course because I have a background in curriculum. So I take this course and I am blown away by this woman. She is so good. And I learned so much from her that I signed up for the next course, which was a 10-week course. I signed up for that. Subsequently, I went on a cruise where she was offering a 14-hour workshop, a cruise through the Mediterranean in the fall. And then I took another 7-week course from her. It was like I was getting an MBA in mediumship. I mean, that was it. And I probably have invested more in my mediumship training than I did in my PhD. Honest to God, because the reality is my PhD was on fellowship and scholarship for everything like that. Here it had come out of my pocket, so it was pretty significant. And then I am now I am about 70% and above accurate with my mediumship, and I've had some wonderful experiences. And what I really like about it is it my intention with mediumship is to provide healing and empowering messages for the client. Many people are struggling with the loss of a departed loved one, and they need closure, or they have questions. And so if I can be of service to them, that's why I like doing this. Now, the acting thing that I do in the commercials, that's a little fun, but it's, again, it doesn't have the purpose of being of truly of service. That is the appeal to me of mediumship. So that's a long introduction explaining everything and what the background.
Wow, that's an awesome introduction. I am really baffled. I don't know where to start. So let's just start with evidential mediumship. This is something that has been coined by Suzanne Giesemann. Could you please explain to us what is that about and how do you practice that?
Okay. Evidential mediumship says that we use a variety of clairs. We have clairvoyance, we see, clairaudience, we hear, clairsentience, we feel, claircognizance, we just know. Now, occasionally we have clairgustif, I never can pronounce it, where we can taste, and then clair, I can't, olfaction, where we can smell. I've smelled once, I think I tasted once, but very rare. So what happens is the first thing I do is I connect with spirit. I go through this process that I connect with spirit. And then just to say, oh, I have the spirit here and they're telling me this, whatever, that is baloney. Evidential mediumship says they give you very specific descriptions of what this spirit looks like, feels like, their personality, and typically, and this is the evidence, and then the client has to be able to validate and identify who it is we're talking about before we go any further. Because just to say, oh, I have a spirit here and here's their message for you, so I could just be making that up. All right. But if I say, I see I see a man, he appears to be past who had passed between the ages of 60 and 70. He has facial hair. His hair is salt and pepper. He's rather tall. He likes the outdoors. And I see him liking to camp, but he has an axe like he's chopping wood, and he works with his hands. That's a lot of evidence. Then I ask the client to say, would you understand any of that? Let's start with, are you aware of a man who passed between the ages of 60 and 70? Yeah, and I want them to answer me as follows. Yes, no, I don't know, I don't remember, I'm not sure. That's it. Don't tell me anything more because that breaks my flow and connection with spirit. So they may say yes. Then I say, I see him as tall, probably over 5'10". I'm not sure how tall, but he appears like he stands very straight and tall. Would you understand that? Yes. I see him as having salt and pepper hair. No. Well, I don't get upset by a no. It may be that's how he wants to be remembered, not how he ends up being bald when he's in a 60s, 70. I don't know, but that's what I'm getting. I'm only reporting what I'm getting. And she says no. And then I might say, I might have said to her in the evidence, this is the man who doesn't mince word. He's very, very direct. So she said, well, so far it could be one or two people, but the one about not mincing words, that's a yes if I go with one of them. Sometimes I'll get two people that are so similar. We make columns and I go, okay, there's person A, person B. For us to differentiate just exactly who's here, because both of them could be present too. And one of them wants to talk. I had that with one client where she ultimately wanted to speak to her stepfather. And I'm describing this person. She goes, well, that one sounds more like my father. And I said, oh, you mean to tell me your stepfather and your father were that much alike, except for this one differentiating factor? She said, yes. I said, well, all right. You want to talk to your stepfather? Okay, I'll ask your father to step back because he's here too. I ask him to step back, and he says, I don't want to step back. I have something I want to say to my daughter. So I said to her, look, he really wants to say something to you. Would you allow him? Otherwise, I'll be more insistent. And she said, okay. And then he said his piece, and then he stepped back, and then the other person could come forward. That has happened to me a couple of times. Okay. So that can happen. But that's evidential medium. You have to, so basically, they validate who is this spirit that we're talking to. Okay. And then sometimes, I mean, I'll have people say, oh, after 4 or 5 things, oh, I know exactly who that is. That's my husband. Okay, fine. The next thing I have to do for further validation is I validate with a memory that only the two of them share. Once that's validated for me, then I will give them the message. I just don't pull a message out of the air from some unknown whatever. It's got to be validated by the client so they believe that their loved one, and usually when the message is coming, they're going to give me some expression or something they only say that they'll wind up saying to me, that sounds just like my husband, sounds just like my mother, etc. And I'll share some stories with you later, but I wanted to answer your question.
Wow, that's really awesome. And in that regard, you work also together with your guides. So please, could you start by sharing what is a guide, and then how do you work with them?
Okay, so I have the guides were always, that was like if people say, we got to establish your guides. Well, how do I find them? Well, you meditate. See, part of anybody can become a medium. It's a matter of education, meditation, practice, 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 practice. You can't, you got to practice. And it takes a while to unfold. So my first guides that I got through the Monroe Institute. These guides were really crazy. That they said we're to go to a certain level and we were going to meet these people. This was before I became a medium, well before, 10 years before. So they were kind of out there in the ether. And these 3 guides looked like praying mantises. And I said, oh my God. They tell you to take an elevator up, you step off the elevator, blah, blah, blah. And then I see these 3 praying mantises. I jump right back on the elevator. I go back down. I go, whoa, this is like what? And I didn't tell anybody in class what I saw because I thought, oh my God, I'm freaking out. This is too weird. So then I thought about it and I said, you know what? Be brave, go back up there. And I said, I go back up there again. And I said, listen, I'm really sorry I responded the way I did, but I was a little taken aback by your appearance. And they go, well, we can be anything you want us to be. I mean, we can look any way you want us to look. If you want us to look like an actor like Gregory Peck, we could look like Gregory Peck. I said, no, that would be rude. You have to be who you are. Well, they said, maybe this will be a little more palatable. I don't know if you ever saw the movie with, I think it was Pinocchio with Jiminy Crickets. Jiminy
Yeah.
Crickets was a cartoon character that was dressed in a tuxedo and a bow tie. So they they put on like tuxedo jackets with their wings behind them, and they have this bow tie with their little creepy hands. It's like hilarious. And and they're playing cards and smoking cigars now. I mean, like what is, but their role at the time was to show me things, and they just took me by the hand and they just like flew me around where I was getting an aerial view of stuff. So that was very nice. And they all had names. One was Alex, Robard, and oh, Armand. All right. So there were 3 of them. So Robard was the main one, and they were just talking to me about stuff and not about mediumship at this stage. Okay. So when I was coming home from this Monroe Institute, they said, now we want to tell you, you have been with us a week and you're still probably in an altered state. So when you get back to civilization for yourself, you need to get grounded. That would be walking on your bare feet on the ground, jumping in water, all of that stuff will get you more grounded. So I'm driving, I'm in another county in California, and I'm driving by myself, and I sense that they're present in the car with me. I say, "Hey, guys, I sense you're in the car with me. What's the deal here?" And they said, "Oh, we thought we'd keep you company." I said, "Look, that's really nice. I appreciate it. And by the way, I only have two of you. Where's Armin?" They said to me, "He was busy with other things. You're not the only person in the world." So, so I said, "Okay, but I got a favor to ask you guys, though. I am driving in Riverside County right now. When I cross the San Diego County line, would you mind just leaving because people will think I'm nuts?" So they said, "Oh, no problem." So now the funny part was I was going to an aqua aerobics class. I was on my way from this thing. That was the first thing in the morning I was doing. I was going to drive directly to this aqua aerobics class. And I've always been one who expressed what I thought, what I wanted. If I didn't like something, I'm going to tell you. If I like it, I'm going to tell you. So my aqua aerobics teacher was running all over the pool going, "Someone took my boom box. Someone took my boom box. I'm not going to have music to play. What am I going to do?" And she's like in this panic, right? But I'm still in this altered state, right? And I say to her, "Oh, Monica, don't worry. We don't need the music. We have you. That's all we need." And she looks at me like, "Who is this woman?" Then I jump in the water and I become myself again. I get grounded. And I was like totally airy fairy at that moment. It was hysterical. Okay, so that was that first expression with my guides. The next thing that happened was I get my guides. I know the story's crazy. That I get these guides when I go to the Monroe Institute for with Michelle the medium, and we're supposed to get these guides. So I get these additional, I think there were like 4 guides, and there was um, Jeremy, Lila, Scout, who was a dog, and why am I? I'm not thinking of the name that I'm trying to think, but I could describe them to you. One, and then each one had a different role. I said, "Oh, okay, guys, what's your role?" So they show up. They just show up through meditation. And I said to them, "What's your role? How can we most be effective? What's the most respectful way to work together?" And they told me. All right. So then I start with Suzanne, and Suzanne says, "We all have a mediumship guide. We have other guides, and this is how you do it. And this is where my guide, who is a combination angel and mediumship guide, and it's Angelique." And I ask her if this is the one that I felt this total acceptance, this total love. And her role to me is to help me with my mediumship. Now, and then there's a couple of others. I also have a dragon. I have an animal guide, and my dragon, so we're calling him Dragoon. This was an interesting. He came in because I was calling from who is my animal guide? Who is this? All right, and it's Dragoon. And Dragoon says, "You can jump on my back and I can fly you around, or we can merge." And so I said, "Okay, let's merge." And now I'm able to see things through his eyes, as though he's flying around and I can see what he's seeing. So this was very cool. And then I read about dragons and what they mean. And so I got all these little dragon statuettes and have it around me now. It's kind of cool. And there was, then I wanted to find out, I got this other, sometimes I'll be meditating. I said, "Who is it that I'm supposed to meet? And what is it that I am supposed to know right now?" And up comes this woman. She says her name is Helena, she says. And she looks like she's in like a Viking kind of helmet and this costumey kind of thing. And what I heard her wrong, because I looked up Helena. There was no Helena, but there was Athena. She looked exactly like Athena. I heard it wrong. Okay. And she is the one who is my protector, and she's there. That's what she's there. So it's just very interesting. So when I meditate, the other thing guides can do is they work on your behalf. Let's say I want the spirit world to understand that my sign for military is this, or any kind of officer. They, when I'm going to do a reading, they will work with spirit and say, listen, if you want to tell her you're in the military, either show up in a uniform or do this and she'll know. So they're kind of like the advancement for the spirit world. And that's what they do. They let me know when they're around me. Uh, I know it because I feel them as a tingling in my arms when they're around me. So that's how they function with me. They either act as advancement, or I ask them questions when I'm meditating to help me understand the best way to navigate something or whatever. So that's the story.
Oh my God, I love this story. And the Manches are known for being very funny fellas. So that they put this costume on is really heartwarming for me. It was amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. And Dragoon, oh my God, can you share something about Dragoon? I love dragons. Mine
Well,
is Andra.
Andra, you have a dragon. You call him Andra. Okay.
Andra.
You ever merge with your dragon so you could see through his eyes?
No, I haven't done that yet. I'm going to try that out now. Like,
So he's
since you
flying
say that.
around and I'm seeing everything through his eyes. And I thought, if I could do this with him, I could probably merge with any other entity that I wanted to do that with. But I just felt like, this fire breathing dragon. And he says, you can hop on a. I felt like the Game of Thrones with his Dracarys. What's her name? I can't think of it, but she was riding him. Okay, I initially I thought, okay, I'll be like her, and he goes, "Come on, join me, see it the way I see it." And then I said, "Okay, that was cool." So
Well, that's
either,
even better.
yeah, it was better. I mean, I don't. The fear that I had years and years ago is not. I don't have that anymore. I mean, because I know that whatever I'm doing is for the greatest good. That I am protected. That I am the light, and that my whole purpose is that to be of service. So I don't worry.
I love that so much. What about protection? Yeah, let's talk about that because some people prefer to protect themselves, some others don't. I don't put a bubble when I go outside or anything. I want to be there, and I feel like we're all one, So I want to experience everything, whatever is going on fully.
I'm with you. I First of all, I imagine myself in a shaft of white light, okay, and know that that light goes out. I also activate my chakras going out there, but I am absolutely not worried about anything because I know what my intention is. And I set very clear boundaries about, I only want to invite in people with like minds. Okay. So I don't invite in any negativity. It just doesn't come around me. It's just like not allowed.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that's awesome. And let's talk a little bit more about yeah, as we all have the hardware necessary. You were speaking about that earlier on, and it's just about installing the right software so that you are able to access all of that. So that ties also into belief systems, right? You need to have an accurate belief system. If you're seeing yourself as a less than or unworthy, it's going to be very difficult to be able to even connect. How do you see that? What is your knowledge about this and your
Well,
experience?
I think the heart chakra is the one that connects with um, others, but it also represents courage, and having the courage to know that you are gifted in the ability to connect. and knowing that you have the right and that you can do, having the courage to go out there and do this. And I'll tell you, when I first, coming from the very corporate environment, I got a lot of eye rolling and a lot of other things. Here's this, I have a national reputation for being an award-winning executive coach. Now I'm going and I'm going out on a limb and talking about the spirit world, and people just kind of like, they do one of two things. Either they avoid me or they will just give me this smile, like, okay, let her talk. I don't believe a thing she's saying, but I don't want to be rude. Or you even can get this kind of thing, like, okay. And so what I have learned is I only connect when I talk about this stuff, I talk about it with people who are interested, other like-minded people, because I don't need to bring in they're entitled to their belief system. And I have to honor and respect that. I just need to shield myself from their negativity. And so therefore I choose not to be around it. And one of the things that happens when you get into this is you will lose friends, and you have to be prepared for that. And they just kind of disconnect from you, but you make new friends. And that's just kind of the way that it works. And then there are people what you have to be careful of is that people say, oh, you're a medium. Can you see my mother's spirit around? And my response to that is, I don't do that. I don't do that. If you want a reading with me, we can see if your spirit, if your mother's spirit will come forward, but I cannot guarantee who comes forward. I have no control over that. So if you're really interested, it's like when you go up to an attorney, you say, hey, I have this contract. Will you look at it? No.
Oh my God, I love a lot of what you're saying there. So yeah, it's basically making space for the new, and the old will fall away, usually naturally. But let's talk about all of this. It's like some people think that they are getting crazy when they're getting all these kind of amazing experiences. You know, like you said, when you heard the first OBE, it was, I think that was first scary for you and then magical. So let's speak about this cognitive dissonance that can come across people when they first start connecting.
Well, cognitive dissonance, um, you have to decide what it is you want. Cognitive dissonance, let me think, when I think about defining cognitive dissonance, it's where you want something, but then there's something that's opposing it. I just got rid of the opposition. I got educated and meditated to accept what this is. So I don't have any dissonance about any of the stuff that happens to me because I got educated and I meditated. So it's not an issue for me, cognitive dissonance.
Okay, I like that. What I tend to say is like you can normalize everything. You can normalize life affirming situations, behaviors, or you can also normalize behaviors that are not very life affirming. So that's how I pose it. Um, and so let's speak a little bit about your mind blowing readings.
Oh,
What?
so fun. Well, here's the thing about reading. Sometimes you're in the flow, sometimes you're not. And um, most of the time I am, but I have my moments where I'm just not connecting. And one of the things that I'm doing when I'm having a less than stellar reading is I am journaling and recording. What was the time of year? What was the time of day? Did I have a good night's sleep? What was my physical condition? Where was the moon? Where were the tides? I want to see if there is any relationship data wise. See, this is the analytical side of me that's going to look at to see if, for example, every time the moon was in a certain section, my readings were like in the tank, then what that says to me is I'm just not booking readings during that time. For some reason, it doesn't work. All right. So it's going to take me a year to collect enough data so that I can see if there is any correlation between seasons, mood, blah, blah, so that I know how to best serve my clients. And that's the only reason that I would be doing that. Okay. Now, going back to what was your original question? It just slipped out of my mind.
It was about the most mind-blowing readings that you have had with the
Okay.
most healing.
All right. I will tell you the most recent reading that I had that was so mind blowing. This woman, um, when I start reading, the first thing I do is I will get a random image or word or something really odd that I used to ignore to say, well, this is so random. I can't even, I'm not even going to say it because it sounds stupid. But I've learned to trust spirit and to just say it. So I tell my clients, all right, first thing's going to happen, some random word's going to come up. You're going to either, I might say to you, I got an image of an elephant. Would you understand that? You might say, I have no idea what you're talking about. Then I say, well, metaphorically, the elephant could mean that something really big happened in the spirit's life, or there was an elephant in the room and there was something nobody wanted to talk about. Would you understand that? She said, well, maybe. Okay, well, we'll put a pin on that, put it in the parking lot. Now I'm going to go in and make my connections. We'll see if there's any relationship between that particular thing and reading. So I started out this reading with the same kind of thing. And I said, I don't even know how to tell you this, but I get an image of a box of vanilla pudding. And I said, now I'm getting the word orange. Now, I know there's no such thing as orange pudding. There's orange jello and there's vanilla pudding. But I don't know. I said, when I think of orange, if I think about this metaphorically, the only thing I can think about is orange and vanilla make a creamsicle. Do you know what a creamsicle is? It's like a popsicle. You know what a popsicle is, don't you? Ice popsicle. This is like a popsicle that's filled with vanilla ice cream. It's called a creamsicle. Okay. All right. So fine. She says, I said, would that mean anything to you? She says, possible. I said, okay, we'll put it in the parking lot. So I go through, I connect with her mother. She's very thrilled. I connect with her mother. I give her all the details and she goes, that's my mother. So I said, okay, I'm going to give you a memory. So I'm sitting there and I'm going, I know that I cannot do no harm. That's the rule. All right. But it's the way that the mother said this to me. Mother says, your mother is sharing a memory with me, and she's saying, she lied to me. Would you understand what that means? And she says, mm-hmm, once, and it was big. I said, okay. And she proceeded to tell me that she lied to her mother about something. She never lied to her mother, but every opportunity that came up, her mother would remind her that she lied to her. She even did it after she's dead. Okay. Like crazy. So then I give her a message from her mother, and she's very happy. And I forget about the pudding thing. I'm just completely forgotten about it at this point. And so then I said, well, that concludes our reading. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about? She goes, just a minute. She leaves the screen. She comes back with a box of vanilla pudding and a box of orange jello. I said, are you kidding me? She said, my mother gave this to me before she went into assisted living. She was cleaning out her house and she says, here, take these. And I said, Mom, what am I going to do with a box of vanilla pudding and a box of orange jello? They don't even go together. And her mother says, so you'll figure it out. You'll mix them together and make a creamsicle. Yeah.
No way.
That's how you know you're not making this up. I never in a million years would have ever come up with anything like that. How would I do something? Okay, it's crazy.
Exactly.
Then another one, I was doing a reading for a woman, and I gave her the details, the evidence, and she goes, I know who that is. That's my husband. So I said, okay, well, let me share a memory that he's sharing. I said, he's showing me that you used to go camping, but not outside in like a recreational kind of vehicle. But this vehicle was not parked in a recreational park. It was like parked in some grassy area, and that you would build like a bonfire. And then you had these crappy lawn chairs sitting out there, the kind with the green and white woven lawn chairs that are like light aluminum, crummy lawn chairs. You'd be sitting on these lawn chairs, and he'd be playing the guitar. She said, there is no way you would know that, but I'm going to tell you that we had a camper. We had a large property, and we parked the camper well away from the house in the grassy area with the woods behind it. And we would go there every weekend to just relax and enjoy it. That was the memory. So then this came so fast, and I gave her the message from her husband, and she was very happy with this. And then I said, we really finished so fast. Your husband was just so forthcoming. I said, do you have any questions you can ask? And she said, I want to know if anything precipitated his death. And I had told her, we had established that he passed of a heart attack, natural, okay? I said, are you asking me, did someone have a hand in his death? And I said, because there is nothing I get that suggests that. And she said, no. I said, you weren't with him then when he passed? She said, no. He was out of town in a hotel. But his son was with him, and his son has mental illness. I said, so your question really is, did his son, who has mental illness, do something that created such stress for him that it precipitated this heart attack? Is that what you're asking me? And she said, yeah, it's been bothering me for the last couple of years. I said, all right, I'll ask him. So I asked him. And I said, did he call you darling? Not darling, darling. She said, yes. I said, because here is what he says. No, darling, my son had nothing to do with this. As a matter of fact, I was more concerned that my son would freak out finding me than I was about anything else. And then he says something, and I go, oh my God, I know I'm not. I put my hand over my mouth because I know I'm not supposed to laugh. This is a serious thing, all right? I said, I'm not sure I know how to say this, but your husband has quite a sense of humor. He said, no, my son had nothing to do with this. My ticker just ran out of tox. I had never heard that expression, ticker meaning your heart, tox, tick. I said, she starts laughing and she said, that is so my husband. I called up 4 cardiologists afterwards. I said, have you ever heard the expression, my ticker ran out of tox? They said, never. I've never heard that expression in my life. I've heard my heart ran out of beats, but not my ticker ran out of tox. That is evidence to me that I am really talking to spirit. There is no way. I never heard that before. Okay. Is that amazing?
Oh my God, I'm mind blown. I think, what fascinates me the most is that the spirit world has such a sense of humor, you know, and that's how you realize that it's it's just a transition, it's just a new phase, and it's such a great thing to to have completed your tasks on Earth and to have new tasks coming up and then to connect with your loved ones on the other side of the veil again. And there can be this communion and this friendship again, this new relationship that can evolve from both sides of the veil, both sides communicating with each other, having fun together, laughing together again.
Well, you bring up a very good point. And this is something that Mavis Patilla talks about. Spirits are just disembodied people. They still are the same people. Okay. Their spirit doesn't die, their body died. And so when I'm communicating with them, that sense of humor was true of him his soul, when he was alive. So he's just demonstrating it to her. I'm still here, baby. Okay. That's it. I'll share one additional one with you. I'll tell you one real short one, and then I'll tell you a long one. I was doing a practice session with another medium, and she lived in London. And I had connected with her uncle or grandfather. I don't remember. This was a couple of years ago. And I was giving her a message, and I said, he's doing something. He's taking his hands to his mouth and like going, boosha, boosha, with his arms spread out. His arms are opening from his mouth out, boosha. Now, I've never heard that word before in my life. And I said to her, would you understand what that is? And she goes, well, even though I live in London, I'm originally from either, she said, Poland or Romania. I don't know. She goes, and busha means kisses. That's sweet. So, again, I don't know. Now, the last one that I'm going to tell you is I was on a film set with this woman, and she was a Black woman, attractive, a professional actress. I was just an amateur. This was a volunteer assignment I was doing with her, and she was really nice. And she was helpful to me because I was still a learner. And we would text each other a couple times a year. Hey, how you doing? What, blah, blah, blah. And so when she found out, she saw on LinkedIn that I was doing this, she said, oh, I'd like to have a reading with you. Sure. So we set her up for a reading, and I connected, and what I saw, I wasn't sure how I was going to say. I saw a very handsome, very muscular Black man in the jungle with a spear, with this loincloth. And I thought, how do I say that to this Black woman? It's going to come across racist. I mean, I was just really, so I have to be careful. And I said, I see a man who appears to have passed between the ages of 40 and 50. He is extremely handsome, and he is ripped. He is Black. And would you understand? Oh, I said, not only that, this man walks, and I could feel my body moving, and like he was taking over my body. It's with extreme confidence, almost warrior-like. Would you understand this? And she said, no, I have no idea what you're talking. I was so certain about what I saw. I was undaunted. I said, okay, let me go back and get some more. So then I said, he's saying something about a panther, a Black panther. Would you understand that? And she said, no, I never had anything to do with the political group Black Panthers. I said, no, that's not what he's saying. He's going panther, the animal, panther, like that. She leans back and she says, you're not talking about Wakanda Black Panther and Chadwick Boseman, are you? I said, let me ask. I said, you know what? He looks like Chadwick Boseman. And I suddenly got the shivers all through me. And she says, I knew Chad. I said, you knew Chadwick Boseman? Now, do you know who Chadwick Boseman is?
Is that the Black Panther actor from
Yes,
Marvel?
yes, yes, yes. And she said, I knew Chad. I said, you knew Chad? Bozeman? She said, yeah. She said, or was it Boswick, Bozeman? I can't remember. And then she said, yeah, before his career blew up with the Fantastic Four and Wakanda Black Panther, we used to go to auditions. I see him at auditions all the time. Then he got married, his career blew up, and he went his way, and I went my way. She said, but I can't imagine why he's here. And I said, well, I told you I have no control over who comes forward, but whoever is going to come forward is for your greatest good. So now, just to be sure, for your purposes, I'm going to ask him to share a memory that only the two of you know. So I said, he's showing me a stage set, like the two actors' chairs, the canvas chairs that the actors sit on in a stage set. Right, immediately she says, I never did a film. I said, okay, I'll ask for another example. So I said, he's showing me that the two of you are having lunch in the LA area, and it's in a restaurant that's either an outdoor, that you're having this outdoor restaurant, or it's one of these restaurants with like a glass top overhead where it makes you feel like you're outdoors. Would you understand that? And she said, you know, we did have lunch once in LA. So I said, well, that's the memory he's sharing with you. And now I will share his message. Now, just to, and I, that's private, but I won't go into that. So the thing about his, a man between 40 and 50, he passed in his mid 40s from colon cancer. And she then began to say to me, she debriefed me, and she said he was just a really stand-up guy, so nice, always so helpful, and everybody always spoke very highly of the guy in Hollywood circles. And she said he was just a really great guy. She said, as a matter of fact, one of the things he wanted, he called me one time and asked me if I would do a project with him. He wanted me to do a project with him, but I was working on something else. I was busy. I was committed. I had some contract, but I couldn't do it. I said, he wanted to do a project with you. That memory that he shared with me of the film set was to remind you that he had asked you to be on a project with you. Now, you see, he doesn't say it directly. Spirits don't say it directly. They talk to you in symbols sometimes. So it's not up to me to interpret that. It was only until after, because I didn't say to her, well, he's showing me a film set. Were you at a project together, or was there an opportunity that for you? I can't do that. If they know, all right. And she wound up telling me in the end that I made the connection for her. She still didn't make the connection initially until I said this to her. But it's amazing. Just an amazing reading. Crazy. Yeah.
Wow, that's really mind blowing again. Oh my gosh. And the spirit world is really like, wow. Oh my God. I don't even know what to say right now. I love your stories. They are just so amazing. And it just so shows that, yeah, everybody is here for each other, no matter if you were very tied together or if you were just friends or something like that. Everybody is helping everybody.
Well, and I think in her particular case, she had some career issues or concerns, and he gave her his message as it related to her career concerns. Okay. So that was kind of the thing that happened there, you know? So that's that. So that's it makes it when that happens, it is so rewarding to me because I know I've made an impact. When I have a situation where I'm getting a lot of no's or I'm not connecting, I know within the first 5 to 7 minutes if I'm connected. So what I say to people is, look, for some reason, I'm not getting a good connection today, and I don't know why. But here's the deal. This is what we're going to do. We're not going to force this issue because that's not going to help. What we're going to do is we're going to reschedule for a different time where the channels will be clear. Now, I never blame the client. Maybe they were being closed. Maybe they were being distressed and not letting me connect with them. But I never tell a client that because I don't know if that's the case. I don't know what's operating. Was it the moon, the tides, the whatever? I just say, not working today, we'll do it again. And that's probably happened to me where I've rescheduled maybe 3 or 4 times. And then the second time I go to do it, it's perfect. Fine. So that's why I say if any of you go to a medium and it doesn't work out, I would say, if I was the client, I would say, if things don't work out with you as a meeting, and if it doesn't connect for whatever reason, do we have an opportunity to reschedule for another time that's more convenient? If they say no, then I would question the ethics of that meeting.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So, Elizabeth, would you like to share some of the tools that you have picked up that maybe people can use themselves for self-development? Like, is there any visualization in meditation that you do that you would say, if you want to test that you have the hardware that is necessary, and if you're really open minded and open hearted, you can do this and you can get from the spirit world something that can encourage you to pursue your own birthright. I call this a birthright. We were all born with it.
Okay, that's a very good question, and it's a very practical one. I wish I had a practical answer for you because development takes time to unfold. First of all, I start with the premise. We are all capable of doing that. That's just the premise. The thing is, how do you awaken those different areas? And it begins with education and meditation. So my suggestion is there's no quick fix. Some people, it's they're natural and that's it. Okay. Most of us don't fall in that category. So if you're like me and you don't, then the first thing is you have to allow yourself to be open and get educated. So there are courses out there, and I recommend the Shift Network. It's a great place to start, or the Monroe Institute, or of course the Arthur Findlay College if you want to go over to London. What I like about the Shift Network is that Suzanne's courses are so well designed, and they provide you with all the tools on how to meditate, what to meditate, how to get your guides, what to do. It's very much how to practical course. It's not that woo woo. And you begin to see that. The other thing is that reading about books about the quantum field, quantum physics, definitely there's books by Lynn McTaggart called The Field. It's also another book called The Power of Nine, and you'll see there's that. There is there's just a lot a lot out there by respected journalists that get into quantum physics that make this less woo-woo-y and much more concrete. To say it's concrete, that's odd to say it's concrete because, first of all, it's like before we got the microscope, we didn't think if we couldn't see it, feel it, or touch it, it didn't exist. And then under a microscope, you see bacteria, you see all the stuff you couldn't see before. It's the same thing with spirituality. You need to have the tools so that you are able to see the different dimensions and so forth. And that takes study and practice and learning. And I'd like to say there's a quick fix. There was no quick fix for me. It was just a lot of effort. I meditate every day. I continue to study, I continue to take courses, and I continue, and I want to say there is a fantastic um, platform out there called Very Soul. Have you ever heard of it? VERYSOUL.com. Very Soul. This woman who, like myself, very straight arrow, got a download a lot of from her guides that the world needs to understand mediumship and to be able to connect with the spirit world. She happens to have retired in her 50s as a major executive from a company and had the funds and the resources as well as the knowledge of how to set up these systems. So she has created a system where mediums can practice with each other, and not only practice with each other, but get coached, go to circles, larger circles. But for example, if I wanted to practice my mediumship, I would go onto the system and I'd say, I would like to practice mediumship on this day in this time frame. Now I'm on Pacific time. The system knows every other medium that's available who has indicated their available times and dates. It automatically converts to their time zone, sends them a note. You have a booking with Elizabeth Freed on this date. I get a thing from the system that says, this is the Zoom link with Carolina. Okay. And this is it. It sends me a reminder that I have this meeting. And then we do our practice with each other. And then we give feedback. We are required to give feedback on the system to do this. Okay. So that is, if you're interested in it, you start to learn it and you want practice, it makes it, because I've talked to people in Australia, in Spain, in London, everywhere. It doesn't matter where they are because the system will find them when they're available and you're available. And you don't have to go, oh, gee, I'm on this time zone. What time zone are you on? How do we? It's just so wonderful. It's just wonderful. And they just created something like, even now, if I have had a time where I haven't done readings or I've been busy and haven't done it, I thought, oh, geez, I need a good practice in. I can do an on demand practice. Let's say it's like 8 o'clock at night. And I say, I got an hour here. Maybe I could do a practice. Every hour on the hour, I can go on their system and say, I'd like to do an on demand practice. The system searches to see anybody else that wants to do on demand, bang, does it real time. You're connected now. Amazing.
I didn't
So,
know that. Thank you,
yeah,
Elizabeth.
yeah, it's wonderful. It's just wonderful.
Wow, that sounds really pretty awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
and if there are the other thing is for me, the first thing I did is I was practice medium. Based on the feedback, the next thing is I get starter clients. These are people that have worked with mediums and know that you're a developing medium, and then they're very positive and trying to give you feedback. Once you pass that level, which I did, then you get donor clients. Now, donor clients are clients who can't afford to pay for a medium. And so anybody that would like to have a medium reading, if they're going to Very Soul, they know they've got these vetted people and they're all very ethical. So then you become a donor client. You get one free reading, become a donor client. And the purpose here is to give the medium's experience with clients from all walks of life. I have had people come on the line, they're in their car, they're vaping or they're smoking dope. I mean, it's like not what I would normally do, but the intention is you have got to learn to deal with people from all walks of life if you get past this level. So then after you pass the donor client level, which I did, then you may go on their system as a professional medium and charge people. But you have to pass every level. So it's so if anybody wants to get a reading and they go to Very Soul and they can't afford it and then they can work with a developing medium. And so there's that option too. I still take donor clients just because I want to, like I'll do it maybe once or twice a month where I want to give back. And so that will happen. So it's just a really good service.
I really love that, Elizabeth. It's really amazing. Thanks for sharing because some people out there might want to do that as well. My last question would be your highest vision for the new earth.
My what? I didn't hear what you said.
Your highest vision for the new earth.
Oh, wow. The people embrace spirituality so they know that they're that we never really die and that we are all connected at all times. And so it's important to understand that you send out love and that you work together. I think that would be it.
Elizabeth, I will be posting the links below so that people can find you online, can book a reading with you, and therefore help a lot of people out there where the donations land that you are getting. So I thank you very much for the service that you are doing for the community. And I wish you the best. And thank you very much for being here today.
It was my pleasure, and you continue to do your good work out there in Malta. And if I'm ever by again, I'll stop by and say hello. Okay. Take care. Bye bye now.